everybody. It's Dr. Cindy with the Positively Altered podcast. I am a chiropractic internist and nutritionist, and here we love to discuss all things related to health, physical, spiritual, emotional, financial, and even something dangerous. Now, how can something dangerous be part of your health? Well, that's what today's episode is all about. I will tell you, as a mother, I am always worried about my children and my loved ones doing something scary. But sometimes something scary can turn into something absolutely life-changing and beautiful. And my next guest, who really sits in the financial industry, is going to talk about an activity involving jumping out of a plane and what happens thereafter. So don't go anywhere, but take a quick listen to our sponsors. They're really important to us. And we are going to welcome back today's guest and talk about skydiving.
Hello, my name is Heather Lord, and I am the COO of Professional Health Products. Cutting corners is an all too common practice in the dietary supplement industry. When my father founded Professional Health Products, he sourced the cleanest, most biologically active ingredients from around the globe. Today, that commitment remains, which is why the finest healthcare practitioners, like Dr. Cindy, have trusted us for more than 40 years. We oversee the entire process in our manufacturing facility, from sourcing and formulation to manufacturing and labeling. Today, we offer over 300 unique products that can be tailored to the nutritional and homeopathic needs of each individual. Most recently, we launched a proprietary genetic test, allowing our practitioners to get even more dialed in to their patients' health. To learn more about Professional Health Products, please talk to your practitioner or visit our website at phpltd.com.
Today, your life is going to be altered. I'm Dr. Cindy.
Welcome to Infinity. We have worked hard to create an electronic claims website that is simple and user-friendly. This is the public side. You can log into your personal web portal here. This is your dashboard. You can personalize it to your liking here. Our main focus has been to allow you to submit and edit claims as easy as possible. You will find our claims editor and claims processing is simple to use and straightforward. Our quick action bar is where you can find your most important information. Most of these icons will take you directly to the claims the number represents. You can easily view if you have any messages in your inbox of any unread alerts by looking for these blue numbers. To view the rest of our training videos to get the most of your Infinity experience, click this icon. We hope you find this web portal simple and easy to use. Thanks for letting us serve you.
I'm Dr. Cindy. Who wouldn't want to join me for the Positively Altered podcast? And we are back at the Positively Altered podcast. I am your host, Dr. Cindy, and we just listened to a couple great sponsors, which is always very important to us. But equally important is my next guest. Welcome, Jason Dennen.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Dr. Cindy.
Oh my gosh. Offline a little bit, I was just telling you that I was really excited to hear a story of how you got hurt, which sounded absolutely horrible when it came out of my mouth. But I know there's going to be a lot of gifts in this story. Before we jump right into it, I do have a really important question for you, though.
Sure.
At what point in your life did you decide it was cool to do dangerous things?
Oh man, I would say my early 20s, I suppose. I grew up on the East Coast, didn't know anything different, and I decided it wasn't for me, and I needed to quit my job and move out to Colorado and see what else was out there. And it really kind of started from there.
So what was the very first dangerous thing you did?
Mountain climbing.
Mountain climbing. And what was your very first mountain out there?
Well, first mountain actually was in Washington. I signed up for a two-week training course because I had never climbed any mountain. The closest I had ever climbed a mountain was skiing in New Jersey, and those are some pretty short hills. So Mount Shucks in Washington, the Cascade Range, was the first mountain that I was ever on, and it was eye-opening, scary, and it was the beginning to lots of big adventures.
So you said something that is just, it warmed my heart as a mother, not as a host, but as a mother. You actually signed up for a course to learn how to do the dangerous thing. I have two boys who just do the dangerous things, Jason. I don't think there was a course. I don't think there was a Google conversation. Like, they just went. So I just want you to know before we dive into the story, that warmed my heart a little bit, that at least you made an effort to be safe.
Sure. Well, yeah, there's no guarantee that there's going to be safety, but I figured I didn't know anyone else who climbed mountains or put on crampons or knew how to rock climb, so I better figure it out some way rather than just start climbing the side of the mountain myself. So,
So you were clearly successful in some of those climbs, right? And then what's the next step? So if the climbs become, something you've overcome, what's the next dangerous thing you jump into? No pun intended there, Jason.
yeah, it was climbing for the first couple years that I moved out to Colorado, and then I went back to triathlon. I've done 5 Ironman triathlons, so I kind of went back to that for a while. And so that's not as dangerous, but certainly I've been on some races where it was 105 degrees and my body was certainly shutting down. Organs were shutting down. I finished a race and slept for 36 hours in a row. I mean, certainly safer. And then there came a point I did a lot of travel around the world, and then I was looking for a new challenge, and kind of any challenge that I kind of get into, it starts with um, it scares me a little bit, and I'm not sure I can do it. And I think there's a huge difference in saying you can do something and actually executing that difficult thing. So there starts with a doubt, and I'm like, I'm not sure I can do that, but I want to explore that to see where I can go, because certainly the growth zone in life is always when you're unsure of yourself, and you need to get over some obstacles to figure out if you can do it or not.
So was that a mindset that you took not only in the activities and sports that you picked, but really a life mantra for you, whether it was professional or personal?
Yeah, I think it carries over, and I think it's important not to segregate things so much. And parts of my life, I would jump out of a plane and I would race an Ironman triathlon, and then it didn't always you know go over to every portion of life. And I think one of the lessons I learned was, if you trust yourself to jump out of an airplane, if you trust yourself to climb a mountain, you should trust yourself in every area of life, whether it's business or whatever it is. And I think that's one of the lessons I learned as well.
Okay, so let's get into the story, because I'm gonna preface this with, I'm gonna have a very hard time, and I'll tell you, because all three of my children want to do what you've done,
Hmm.
and what happened to you is exactly why I'm terrified as a mother.
Hmm.
So tell everybody what happened.
Yeah. So at this point, I had been skydiving for about 3 years or so, and it was a normal Saturday, and I had already jumped twice that day. And on the third jump, I'm coming in for a landing. Everything I'm about to land on a field I landed on hundreds of times before, and I get about 150 feet off the ground, and a huge gust of wind comes off the mountains because we're right up next to the mountains in Colorado where I live, and it picks me up and slams me violently forward. And from 150 feet, you have about 5 seconds before you're going to touch down, one way or the other. And when I get hit by the wind, it is taking me further and further from the landing area. And at the end of this landing area is a cattle fence, and then behind that, about 10 feet behind it, is a row of airplane hangars. So big metal buildings, about 20, 25 feet high. So when I get hit by the wind, at first, I'm out of sorts, trying to figure out whether I'm going to, what's going on, and is the parachute still above me? And then the second thought is, I'm getting pushed much further ahead at a much higher speed. Am I going to land before this fence or not? And, first question people ask is, well, why didn't you turn? And the reality is, for 150 feet of altitude, you do not want to turn. Number one reason skydivers die is making the error of turning at a low altitude, because the way a parachute turns is you pull down on a handle and your parachute starts diving towards the ground. Now, you might lose 200 feet, maybe more, but before the turn actually happens. So if you're at 2,000 feet, no big deal if you lose 200 feet. If you're at 150 feet, and you try to lose 200 feet, you're going to hit the ground. And not only are you going to hit the ground, but you're going to increase your speed greatly because you're diving towards the ground. So that's like, don't do that. You're going to die if you do that. And so I'm counting down these 5 seconds, and I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to land before that fence or not. And with 1 second left, I'm like, there's no way you're going to land before this fence. You're carrying too much speed. I hit the fence. It comes tight on my chest and my stomach, breaks immediately, doesn't slow me down at all. And then I hit the side of that building going 30 miles an hour. And I immediately black out. The first people on the scene, luckily about 50 yards away, is the people that are packing their parachutes trying to get onto the next load, airplane load to skydive. And so they're running onto the scene really quickly, and they see me with blood coming out of my mouth, out of my nose, body parts bent in directions you shouldn't normally be bent in. And they asked me, they're like, Jason, how are you doing? Because they're trying to assess my condition, how bad this is. And the first thing that comes out of my mouth, and I'm completely blacked out, so they tell me this months later, is don't call anyone. I'll be okay. Just give me a minute. And it's kind of like the default reaction of fight or flight, where I know I'm in a terrible position. All those things I've done before that were really difficult really come to my aid. And, don't give up, don't give in. Things are bad, but you can overcome this. And that's all default reaction, not consciously doing. And it's like, if you could breathe once, you could breathe twice. And the reality is when I hit that building, it's severe injuries, 20 broken bones, 4 organs that eventually had to be fixed. But the biggest injury was I hit on my left side when I hit the building, 10 of my 12 ribs break, and they impact my heart with such force. My heart breaks out of the pericardial sac, ends up on the right side of my chest, and is all twisted up. So luckily they didn't listen to anything I said when I was laying on that ground, blacked out. They call Flight for Life helicopter. Helicopters you 50 miles to the nearest level 1 trauma center for life-saving surgery. Doctors say that they had never seen anybody survive to get to the hospital with the injury I had with my heart. So they had never done the surgery before. And so they put my heart back. They put me in a coma for 8 days, and it kind of goes from there. So that was the abrupt stop on skydiving when I hit that building.
Wow. So you've never gone back?
Well, going back, I think early on, my mom knew I had that kind of mindset to potentially go back to it and have that as my goal. And one day, so there was 2.5 months where I'm just laying in the bed. I'm not able to move because of all my injuries. And she comes up one day and says, I need to ask you a favor. And I was like, oh, this is going to be a big favor. And I can't get away because I'm laying in bed, not able to move. She says, can you promise me, that you're not going to skydive again? And I went through tremendous guilt, not that my parents put on me, but I put on myself that I put them through this traumatic accident. And you can't imagine what when they walk into a room and see me in a coma for the first time, or they get the call from a hospital saying you better get out to Denver right away, or because your son might not survive. And whether you blame it on the wind, the reality is I jumped out of that plane, and so I took responsibility for that and tremendous guilt. So I promised her I wouldn't. And the reality of being in that situation, my first thought was, I don't necessarily, my goal isn't to skydive again. I want my body to work again, because that was a complete unknown of what my capabilities would be after this accident, after they realized I was going to live, and I'm laying in that bed and going like, well, what's the future? Am I ever going to run again? Am I ever going to, can I walk again? What can I do? So my first thing is, I just want my body to work again. And that's the goal. And a week after I woke up from the coma, I set my goal at I want to race in a triathlon again, because from a mindset perspective, it's like, well, my upper body has to work, my lower body, my heart has to work correctly, and it would be a proof of concept that I'm back, and I'm back as close to myself as possible. I might not be able to go as fast, but it works well enough that I can at least finish a triathlon.
Okay, so you clearly had a great mindset, but dig back a little bit for me, because I think those of us that have the story, right? And I have one too, and most of us that speak on stage, which I know you do a lot of, have the story. Realistically, though, how much of that? Let me ask it this way: if we had to pick a time frame, right, like 24 hours in the day, how many hours were you able to take that mindset of like, I've got this, I can do this, I'm going to build back, versus, gosh darn it, why me? What's going to happen? What if I fail? Where was the level of positivity versus the rabbit hole of negativity? And I'll ask the second part of that. And then how did you really, dig deep to do the positive mindset?
Yeah, I would say it comes in and out because there were days. So I'm laying in the hospital and they send in the physical therapist for the first time, and she starts moving my arm because she said, you're going to lose all flexibility in your left shoulder unless we move your arm. And I'm not even strong enough to move my arm. I have a cast from my wrist all the way to my shoulder. And if you ask me what my mindset after that hour of, because I mean, I would sweat through my gown, I would be yelling in pain. If you asked me right after that how positive I was that I was going to come back, I would say I was not in a great mindset. I was in tremendous pain, and it made me question myself for sure. If you ask me that same question at 10 o'clock in the morning before the therapy session, I would tell you that things are going great, and I'm going to come back from this. So I think it's a cycle of things. It's not always the same, and you know, uh, when you tell the story, you have to let people know, like, I didn't wake up from the coma and just say everything's going to be all right, and we're heading in this direction, and nothing's going to stop me. That's not no way. There were ups and downs the whole way, because you there were unexpected things that happened. I went to anaphylactic shock at some point when they accidentally poisoned me, my liver, and I thought I was dying. And I looked at the doctor and it said, "Do I need to stay awake, or am I about to die?" And then the lights went out and I woke up 6 hours later. Um, but I think having an important why. Of why you're getting through this, or what's important if you get through the other side, was a huge benefit when I figured that out, because um, if I was just doing this for me or coming back from all these injuries for me, I don't think it was enough. When I realized, when I'm laying in the hospital, and in the first couple of weeks, I must have told the story 50 times, because every time someone, they would read the medical report, they say, we can't believe you're alive. We can't believe you're talking. Can you tell us what happened? And I would tell them, and at first it was hard to tell, because you're reliving this hardest thing in your moment over and over, and you're not even close to healed. You're still laying there unable to move. And uh, one night I realized I stopped thinking about how it made me feel, it overwhelmed every time I told the story, and I started thinking about every time I told the story, what the end result would be with the person who was listening to the story, because I would confess that I'm not sure what's going to happen. I'm scared. I'm not sure what the prognosis is, and they would start sharing things about themselves that they were going through, whether it's problems with
Mhm.
kids or family, or the fact that they treat so many patients and some of them don't make it out alive, and it's a heavy weight to bear. Um, and I was like, whoa. I was like, this wasn't a burden for me to bear, having this story. It's a gift given to me that I can connect to people in a way I could have never connected to before. And I understand people that are going through a difficult time in their life in a way that I could have never understood before, unless I went through my most difficult time. So when that kind of light bulb turned on, I'm just like, okay, I'm not getting better just for myself. I'm like, I can help some people. I first have to help myself, uh, and get through this. But once I do that, then I can help people in a way I could have never helped before. And that, it's, you have purpose beyond yourself. You have strength beyond your own strength. And I was just like, okay, now I have a purpose to get through this and all this pain. Because if I get to the other side, I can help someone. So once I had that big why, that was, that changed everything.
I love that. All right, I have to ask though, because you gave us this like little teaser and then you left us hanging. How did you almost accidentally get poisoned?
Well, what happened was, so I wasn't a person that took many medications in my life. And so they weren't sure what could potentially I was allergic to or not in this whole process. So as they're giving me this medication, you don't know what medications you're taking. Obviously, you're just taking whatever they put in the cup or whatever is in the IV line. And all of a sudden I started getting, as I'm laying in bed, all these pains in my upper abdomen. I have no idea what it is, but like at certain points a day, it was just like off the charts painful, and your body's shaking. And finally, I just thought it was part of the process. It was like, oh, this hurts because, well, I broke every bone in my body. But it turned out that whatever medications they were giving me kind of toxified my liver. And they just unknowingly did it. And little by little, was just taking whatever medications they were giving me, over time, started making my liver, off the charts painful. So they had to give me, I call it like the antitoxin. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's like it was not a snake bite, but to detoxify my liver. And when they gave me this, it was supposed to last for I think like 2 days in an IV drip to detoxify my liver. And so what happened was I'm laying there one day, and it's time they sit me up for the first time, which is huge because I shouldn't sit up myself. The therapist grabbed my arms and had me sitting up. And when they have me sitting up, all of a sudden for the first 30 seconds, I'm like, this is glorious. I'm sitting up for the first time. And this is like 2 months into the accident. So I had to lay down, I'm laying down for 2 months. And all of a sudden within like, when we get to the minute mark, I'm just like, something is terribly wrong. And I was allergic to the medication. They were detoxifying my liver, which they had no idea because I'd never taken that before. And they said it was like 1% of people react to that. They told me that later. But I guess I was one of the 1% of people who reacted. So I'm swaying through my gown. They lay me back down after I say there's something terribly wrong. 5 nurses sprint in. They start pricking me with needles, putting something in my IV. The doctor runs in, and there's like sweat coming down from his brow. I always say if the doctor's sweating and looks nervous, it's something not good is happening. So that's when I look at him and say, I was like, am I? Because I feel like I'm seeing spots. I get in tunnel vision. I'm like, I'm about to pass out. And that's when I look at him and say, do I need to fight to keep my eyes awake? Am I going to die right now or not? He doesn't respond, and lights go out. And luckily 6 hours later, I wake up and I'm in a different room. All of a sudden, oxygen is in my nose again, and all these machines because I always graded progress by having less and less machines attached to me,
Okay.
right? And less IVs. So in the early stages, like that was the progress. So all of a sudden, all the things I fought to get that I didn't have to have anymore, all of a sudden, oxygen's in my nose. All these machines are back, and my door's a window now, and I'm across from the nurses' station. So I'm all of a sudden from lower priority to like super high priority. So and I always say that was one of the first tests of how big is your why and how important is your why, because once I realized what my why was, that was the first major bump in the road when that happened, because that was about 2 weeks later. And I'm laying there, and instead of going like, oh, why did this happen? Why did I get this? It's like, no, this is just a bump in the road. I'm going to work to get all those machines off me again, just like I did it before, because I have a why, because I'm going to help other people if I get through this. This isn't the end. This is just another beginning. And I have to fight through this. And that's the big test. Like I say, when you hit that roadblock, how important is your why? Because if your why is not big enough, you might say, that's it. I can't deal with this anymore. One more bad thing happening. It's like, no, this is just part of it. When you go through any journey, there's going to be ups and downs, and you have to deal with that. Start from step one again.
Thank goodness the story isn't he survived the skydiving accident and they killed him in the hospital with the wrong drug, right?
Yeah. And my doctors were great. I don't want to put anything on a doctor. They didn't realize, that medication was poisoning my liver. But yeah,
no, I get
the doctors were amazing, and everyone in the hospital was amazing as well.
I get it. I do have a question for you though pertaining to that. I have a very strong opinion as a physician as to the words we use and the things that we say to patients, especially because we really, at the end of the day, don't know, right, what the potential outcome could be. We know things are serious. We know there's danger. We know there's risk. But even it makes me think to the physical therapist saying to you, we need to move the arm, right, or you're going to lose function, versus let's move the arm so that you get function back. How did you feel about the messaging you got from your healthcare professionals? Either good or bad word helped you with that mindset of let's get over this because I've got an important why, versus stop giving me negative information because you're toying with my messaging.
Yeah, I think about that a lot, because for instance, one of the doctors said, at this point, after 3 months of not being able to walk and laying in the bed, I get more x-rays on my legs. And he said, your legs aren't fully healed, but they're healed enough it will let you put some weight on your legs. So my first question for him after he says that is, well, how many more months before I get to run? Like 3 or 4? And it seemed to me like the most logical question I would come up with next, because I was like, I'm racing in the triathlon. How I'm setting time goals for myself in my head. And he looks at me and goes, the likelihood of you running again is really low. People like you don't get to run again. He's like, I don't think you understand the severity of your injuries. Now, for some people, that might destroy them. For me, I just said, I'm going to show this doctor what's going to about to happen. And so I was for some reason, I sometimes I love negativity. I love proving people wrong. And for me, proving that doctor wrong, now I was going to do it anyway, but I just said, I'm not listening to whatever he said. He doesn't know exactly what's going to happen, because the reality of outcomes, there's the top 1%, there's the bottom 1%, and there's lots of people in the middle with recovery. The doctors don't spend a tremendous amount of time with you because they can't, right? I might see that doctor 3 times for 5 minutes. The therapists know what your mindset, your nurses know your mindset. So that really could have destroyed me. And when I went eventually to see that doctor again, now this was like a year and a half follow-up, and I said, I was like, you did tell me I would never run again. And I was like, I am running. And I said, it's I was like, what you say to patients is incredibly important. That could have destroyed someone. For me, it helped me out, tremendously, because I was looking to prove you wrong the entire time. And it gave me a really huge motivation. But so many things are what you say, because the reality is, whether you're a physical therapist or a doctor, you're a psychologist as well, or psychologist. That's not your job, but the reality is you are, especially physical therapy, because I had spent like 10 months in physical therapy, and I had some tremendous, therapists where they never, I would tell them what I was going to do, and they never said, don't do that, don't try that. They would try to keep me safe and say, you need to hold off on doing that, just, based on your current status. They also used to yell at me sometimes when I did things without asking. But yeah, words are so important. And it's also depending on where you are in your recovery when you receive those words. Because yeah, it absolutely could destroy you, with what someone says, because the way I looked at it is, I was like, I am never going to let someone else determine what my outcome is. I'm going to fail eventually in whatever I do in going forward, because I'm going to push so hard that eventually I'm going to hit a failure point. Because I was just like, they don't know. They spent 5 minutes with me. They don't know what I'm capable of. They don't realize I'm going to spend 10 hours a day doing rehab. I'm not versus the hour that they're prescribing. So I didn't want to look back 10 years past and go, I could have accomplished this, but I let that person determine my outcome with their words. And I wasn't going to let that happen.
It's great. All right. I'm going to take you back. I feel like I'm just playing mother today instead of podcast host, but I want to go back to something you said that actually destroys me as a human being sometimes with kids. And that was the guilt factor of that you stepped onto that plane. As I mentioned, 3 children, they all do what I think is dangerous, stupid stuff. They love it. It feeds their soul. It's part of, right? It's part of who they are. And I wrestle all the time as a parent doing exactly what your parents did, right? Of asking the question of like, please reconsider this because I love you and I don't want to lose you, versus this feeds their soul. It makes them happy and it is their personal choice. So talk to me a little bit as the son who has the guilt, but still, I'll call you an adventure junkie a little bit, right? Of like, there's still this desire to do some of those things. How do you wrestle with that in terms of making your decisions to respect, right, the loved ones that want you here and yet being true to yourself?
Yeah. It's easier when you're doing it than when you're the person watching what's happened, right? Because you feel like you're in control, even though you're not 100% in control of what's going on. I mean, there have been days in the mountains where I just said, I remember being on the side of a mountain and my parents were coming out in a week to visit me. And it was an extremely dangerous situation where if I made a mistake, I wasn't going to be alive. They were going to come out and find out that I was dead. And certainly in the back of my mind saying, I'm not going to put my parents through that. I'm not going to have them show up and me be dead and lost somewhere and or they can't find my body. I was like, so that's a driving force behind not allowing something bad to happen to me. Although obviously you can't control everything. The reality of something go
Right.
wrong. So, but that has crossed my mind in the most dire situations in the mountains before. Of I don't want to end my life and put my parents through this. Um, and that goes to a why too. When you're pushing through something that maybe you wouldn't have been able to get through unless you had that sort of mindset. Um, so I mean, when I told my mom, I wouldn't skydive again, I didn't tell her I wouldn't climb mountains again. I didn't tell her I wouldn't, ride motorcycles. And that's motorcycles I started doing about a year ago because it scared me and I wasn't sure I could do it, and because of a crash I had when I was 12 on a motorcycle. So uh, it's I shield them a lot from that.
Hmm.
I don't tell them all the stories because I don't want that in their mind all of the time. Although I couldn't shield the skydiving story, but there were years and years and years where they knew I climbed rocks and they knew I climbed mountains, but they didn't know all the things. I never shared with them all the near misses and difficult things that I went through because I didn't want to put that on them. Um, so it's yeah, I don't think I was like they know I have to live my life and they know on this they don't understand it, um, but uh, they never tried to hold me back versus minus the say don't jump
Well,
out of the
skydive
plane
again.
anymore after I hit the side of the building.
I,
So
I joke with all of my kids. I'm like, at the end of the day, I just want proof of life. Send me a text, send me a picture. At the end of the day, proof of life, and go enjoy and do right, because it's not my privilege to tell them how to make those choices. And I'm grateful you're here and that the story is great. And tell me now, so what do you do with the story? How are you teaching others, and how are you sharing this in order to inspire others to do what you've done?
yeah, I mean, I think there's a certain responsibility in journey where you say you have all these tools and the mindset that got you through this, and if you got through this, there's something that you can give back to other people that can help them through their toughest time, whatever that happens to be. Because I would say the lessons that help me get through skydiving aren't about skydiving; they're about mountain climbing. They're universal lessons and ways to get through the most difficult times. Whether that may be a car accident or your most difficult challenge at work, or whatever you're going through, they're all things that can help everyone get through those most difficult things. Because I think a lot of times when we go through this difficult time and these problems seem so big that we're trying to get through, we're
Mhm.
overcome by emotion. And emotions can lie to you, and you put seeds of doubt in your head, and can sometimes defeat you in a way. And I think we need to have a system or a framework that brings us away from that emotion. Not that emotion's a bad thing, but it can hijack us from getting to where we want to be. And it's like, let's take that, because there were times when I was going through my comeback where I'm like, like emotions are like, parts of the day I feel great, parts of the day I'm like, there's no way I'm getting through this. And it's like when we put ourselves on a path and take emotion out of it for a second and say, these are the things we need to do either every day or pushing towards that ultimate outcome that are going to get us there. um, and when we work through those steps and take that emotional or defeatist attitude out of it, it really can put us on a path to overcome our greatest challenges.
It's so true. And unfortunately, I think a lot of us get stuck and don't know how to dig out of that, right? Because as I've always said, adversity is coming, bad things will happen. I mean, there's just no way to walk through this life without those challenges. And we can come out bigger, better, stronger when the messaging is correct.
Yeah. And I think the more difficult things you do, the more likely you're to get through additional things because you know how to do it. It's like a habits that you create. Or I say, like, skydiving almost killed me, but also there were so many lessons I learned that helped me in that recovery process that saved my life.
Yes.
Mountain climbing. So it was like saying challenge yourself, or building a strong foundation in who we are as a person is uh is will get us through our toughest times. So choosing to do difficult things before that ultimate difficult thing that you can't decide happens to you, you're prepared for it in a way you wouldn't be if you kind of shield yourself from going through difficult things, or not challenge yourself in your life. So I think so important. And one of the things I say that's the number one reason I survived. It's just I didn't have to ask like, can you do hard things? I've done hard things before. I never crashed into a building. I never understood how it is to come back from that. But the reality is, there was a blueprint in place already of going like, you know, when they sit down and go, you know, this is going to be hard. In the back of my head is like, well, I've done hard things before. I can do this hard thing as well. So you know, when you go through fear of going like, well, what's my life going to be like? How can I get through this? When you've been through fear before, you're like, this is just part of the game. Because fear can either protect you or fear can prevent you from doing something amazing. And the closer you come to that difficult thing, the harder it is to determine which kind of fear that is. But you have to get through that, and you realize fear is part of the process to get to where you want to go to, and you better overcome that.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I would love to just throw out a challenge to everybody listening, and that is go do something hard. It doesn't have to be today or tomorrow, but maybe it's a good goal to put on the list, and challenge yourself and work through the fear. And I absolutely love that messaging, Jason. I think it's fantastic. And therefore, I think it gives us a really great opportunity to take a quick break and listen to our sponsors and then come back. Jason, I've got some rapid fire questions that we did not prep for. You up for a little bit of a challenge to see what we can come up with? I love it. All right, everybody, stay tuned. And by the way, while you're listening to the sponsors, figure out what that next tough thing is going to be that you're going to take on. And we will be right back with Jason Dennen. This is your weekly dose of Dr. Cindy, the Positively Altered podcast. Stop, hit that follow button now, and spread the love with Positively Altered. And we are back on the Positively Altered podcast with Jason Dennen. I can't believe I'm going to say that we had fun talking about a skydiving accident, but I think we actually did. So there's a perspective in everything that has an upside. And now I just want to have a little bit of fun, Jason. So I'm going to throw some questions at you. If you don't like them, you're allowed to pass, no pressure, but
All
just
right.
first thing you think of. Ready?
Sounds good. Let's go.
What is one place on earth you've never been you would love to see?
I think it'd be amazing to see the South Pole. It just Antarctica in general, just because it's just so foreign to anything we're used to.
Okay, that is so cool. I fully expected you to give me some sort of like mountainous range, truthfully.
Well, I've been to a lot of those, so I've been lucky enough to check a lot off on my list. Patagonia and the Himalayas, and I also like to go to other parts of the Himalaya, K2, and that area as well. But yeah, there's so many amazing places to see that I haven't seen yet.
Oh my gosh. So just so you know, my son lives in Fort Collins, Colorado. So I may have to connect you so you two can go do silly things on the mountains together. He loves all that stuff.
I'll be the voice of reason.
Oh, okay. If you say so. I'm not sure that makes me feel any better, Jason, but I do like groups going out together, at least in case something happens. What would you say is your biggest guilty pleasure?
Biggest guilty pleasure. I would say right now, riding a motorcycle.
Okay.
I think that you're completely locked in the moment, and it takes you away from everything because something potentially could happen if you're not locked in. So it seems like it took me a long time in life to understand this, but I without knowing it, I choose things that put you in the moment, and that just happens to be the most recent thing that puts me in the moment of in the present. So.
Okay, I'm not introducing you to my son because I want him to sell the motorcycle. So now all bets are off, Jason. All bets are off. What is the weirdest food combo you eat?
Oh, the weirdest food combo I eat. I'm not really a weird food person. I'll try anything, but I'm trying to think what to. I don't know. I don't think there's anything super weird I eat. I put mustard on a lot of things.
Okay. Well, that could be
Maybe
weird
things you
potentially.
don't need to necessarily put mustard on.
All right, that could be weird. There's no doubt. All right, on your phone, you can only have 3 apps that you can use for the rest of your life. Everything else goes away. What 3 do you keep?
Goodness gracious, I hate apps and I hate a phone. The only thing I do on a phone is text and call people. I mean, I used an app the other week because I went to the Banff Film Festival, and that's how you had to get into how we do tickets this day and age, and that's how you use it. But I honestly don't even use apps. I try to stay off my phone as much as possible.
Oh, well, please make sure the phone is on you when you go do dangerous things, Jason. We have to
Oh,
avoid
I had a
them.
policy for a long time that said you will not bring your phone in the backcountry in mountains. That's part of the adventure is figuring out problems when you get into them and how to get out of them. So
Oh my God, Jason, not only are you not meeting Ari, I'm moving him out of state now so that he doesn't even run into you. I'm like, you will take your phone, you will take your GPS watch, you will take your walkie-talkie or whatever, communicate, like take it. Oh, see, I'm that helicopter mom now that's making my kids do all those things. I shouldn't say making, that's not true.
I would say part of the adventure is not being able to call for help. I think people call for help way too often. I see those reports all the time where people are just like, "Well, I'm a little bit lost," and I'm like, "You're 2 miles from town. What do you mean you're lost with your GPS? Like you can see the street lights because there's lots of trails around where I live." I'm just like, this is ridiculous. I mean, you need to take some responsibility yourself. But I'm glad there was
Oh,
911 when I
Jason,
crashed into the side of the building. So
you're killing me. I just sent my kids the other day an Instagram post of the tree holes because they love to backcountry snowboard, right? Like they don't know what a tree hole is, but as a mom, I'm like, watch out for the tree hole. So yeah, I'm that mom. Okay, I'm that mom. We need a therapy group for all the mothers whose children do all of these things, Jason. That would make our life much easier. All right, last question. Well, 2 more questions. One more is, what is one thing you hope to accomplish this year before it's over?
and I would just say the driving force of what I'm doing now is just to help people along the way, and you never know who you're going to meet or how you can affect their lives. So without having a plan, I mean, I have a plan for speaking and all that, but the reality is that some of the most rewarding interactions I've had were people that weren't at speaking events. I just found them. I see people on crutches, and I'll go up and talk to them and ask them their story and how they're doing and how their therapy is going. So it's really just kind of having the courage or awareness to approach people that maybe I'm not even sometime uh, sort of comfortable approaching because they may need something to just someone to listen to their story. I think that's one of the misnomers. It's not about me talking. My favorite part after speaking is listening to other people because it opens them up to speak in a way they may not have spoken to before. So a lot of things about helping people is just listening to what they're going through and just being there and not giving them advice, not telling them what to do, just listening and being there for them. So
I just love that. That is perfect. Lastly, Jason, what was your favorite thing about doing the podcast today?
I got to spend time with you.
Oh, I just love that. It's so fantastic. No, thank you. This has been an absolute joy and a pleasure. You are speaking. I would love for you to just spend a minute, tell people where you are, where they can find you. You've written a book called 8 Days Till Sunrise about your experience. Where can we find the book? Instagram handles, you name it. Let's get it out there. Tell us how we can stay in touch with you, Jason.
Sure, my website's jasondennen.com. 8 Days Till Sunrise. It's available at any place you buy books, and that'll tell you my story from the beginning of the crash and the ups and downs of the recovery to what I'm doing after recovery. So it kind of fixates on that time of my life. Instagram JWD Boulder, like the city Boulder, BOULDR. And so yeah, and then my email address Jason Dennen the Healer at gmail.com if you want to reach out that way. But yeah, that's how you can get a hold of me. And looking forward to expanding the speaking business. And I've spoken so many different places and met so many amazing people along the way, heard so many amazing stories. And like I said, that's my favorite part, to hear other people's stories. And because one of the things that makes us human is we're all going to struggle in life. We're all going to go through difficult times, and we're stronger when we're willing to share our stories with each other and how we got through those things.
Jason, this has been an absolute gift. I'm going to share with you that one of my favorite things, besides hanging out with you today, is actually the reminder to listen. I do a lot of talking here on the podcast, on stage, educating, and it's a great reminder to remember just to be quiet sometimes and listen. And thank you for allowing me that gift today to listen to your story. It's been an absolute pleasure. We will make sure in the show notes, everybody has access in order to find you. Please purchase the book. I know we're going to do so. It's going to go on the bookshelf here in my collection. I'm excited to have it. And if you'd like to learn more about what we're doing, please check us out at drscindyspeaks.com. Feel free to shoot us an email at hello@drscindyspeaks.com. And please pick up the book, Positively Altered, Finding Happiness at the Bottom of a Chemo Bag. You can get it on Amazon, and we would love to hear your review. One of the things I love the most is tell me what your favorite chapter is and why it resonates with you. I hope that today's podcast has left everybody out there positively altered.